Data Center 4.0, the future of the digital ecosystem. In this podcast series from DigitalCentre, data center leader, expert and APAC-based marketeer Omer Wilson will be in conversation with technology and industry experts on the future of the data center and the wider ecosystem. Today's tech-fueled transformation era is putting traditional data centers under unprecedented pressure. This pressure is coming from businesses, users and consumers from every physical, virtual and cloud-centric angle. What does the future hold for the data center?
Hello everyone and welcome to the next installment in the DigitalCentre podcast. Hope everyone is keeping safe and well in these interesting times as we work through. And very excited today to have another of one of the core and key steering committee members of DigitalCentre join us from London, from the London Internet Exchange, Links. We've got the CTO and Executive Director, Richard Petrie, with us. Richard, hello.
Hi there, Omar. It's great. Yeah, it's good to be talking to you today.
Thanks for joining us, Richard. And Links has been a core member, as I said, of DigitalCentre for many years now, and also obviously a key part of the global digital ecosystem and literally how each of us works and is able to communicate. So it'd be great, Richard, maybe just to start with a very high-level view from your role at Links, and obviously the key part that Links plays in the digital ecosystem. Just how you found the last 3-4 months. I think it's been unique for everybody, and it's been historic, let's say, for good and bad reasons, obviously. But from a Links perspective, how's it been? How have you coped? How have you seen demand change? Maybe just a high-level view would be a great place to start.
Thanks, Omar. Yeah, I mean, it has, for every business and just as much for our business, it's been a very disruptive time, very challenging time. But thankfully, we as a business have been healthy. But in fact, we've seen growth, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I think the main thing is working with our partners, like yourself and your business, but working with our partners across the metros and the cities, working with our staff to keep them safe, and listening to our members, our customers, and seeing where we can support them through this tricky time. We've seen 30% growth of traffic across our main peering land, London 1. We saw increases in orders in that first sort of late March, April time, which is when it really peaked in the UK. We went through various lockdowns, work from homes that most companies went through. But as I say, as a team, we've been working very much in an agile, flexible work style for many years now, and so I think we adapted well, and we've carried on serving, as you say, the interconnection ecosystem, and it's survived and grown.
Very interesting. And I guess from a growth perspective as well,
the 30% number is something that we've heard from very different quarters across the sort of technology landscape. So that seems pretty standard, especially if yourselves are seeing that as well. Is that 30% sort of compared to the growth you'd expect year on year? Is it sort of a quarterly growth, or it's directly attributable to COVID, obviously? And a second question, I guess, is it something that you're seeing being sustained as lockdowns continue or ease as well?
Yeah, so we would expect to see somewhere in the region of 20 to 40% of traffic growth over a year time frame, as more traffic comes onto the network. Obviously, our customers, our members, will be content suppliers, and so often they'll be also deploying caching devices. So you kind of see traffic grow on the exchange, and then also move into caching devices. So there's not a linear path there, but we would expect to see 20 to 40% growth in a year, and we saw a 30 to 33% growth in 2 weeks. And so I guess what we expected to put into the network from a capacity build point of view and investment was consumed within those first 2 weeks of lockdown. Yes, it did kind of peak and then drop off a little bit from the peak once everybody kind of, I guess, moved to working from home and worked out that they had connectivity and how they would operate. But it has sustained, and I think as you read in the press and you look around a lot of the work from home studies, I think more businesses are going to maintain a flexible working approach, and so the demand and the flow of traffic will have changed and will continue to have changed, and so we will expect and we continue to see further growth throughout the rest of this year, and I expect we'll exceed our original forecast for this 2020.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I think sort of from a digital realty and data center perspective, we'd probably echo that as well. And also, obviously, with the large cloud customers we work with, it's similar metrics to the ones you're saying. Obviously, it's all tied together to a degree, but the large cloud providers have seen that sort of 30% jump in demand for their services. Likewise, if you track some of the app download figures coming out of China and some parts of Asia, it's huge spikes on those in terms of education at home and obviously working from home. So I think another area which would be really interesting for the listeners is, you mentioned it a little bit there, was how Links has, in terms of infrastructure preparedness, I guess, in terms of, ramping up to meet the current demand. But then you obviously said, what you'd expect in a year, maybe a bit more, you've seen in 3 months. So companies are sort of battling with this. We're seeing a little bit of bringing projects forward, accelerating some rollouts. Has that happened with yourselves? I know you guys invest hugely in disruptive network solutions as well, driven by some of the large businesses you work with around the capacity and density requirements. Was a lot of this infrastructure already sort of there, ready to go, or did you have to sort of move a little bit quickly to respond?
Well, it's a good question, Omar. I mean, I don't know whether we were lucky or it's just, the timing. And we typically go through cycles of planning. We break our year down into sort of 4 times 12-week planning blocks, and we go through the process of upgrading network components systematically throughout the year. And it just so happened, 2019, we'd made a fairly good investment in our secondary London peering land, London 2, and we just deployed some new Juniper equipment into London 1, which gave us a huge amount of increased density around 100 gig connectivity for our members. And so as we came through the December-January period, we're actually in a healthy position, because we did the upgrades before we got to the UK Christmas New Year holiday break, which we historically do a change freeze, and so we had the capacity in place around that time. And what we realised then is obviously as we went into February and things started to look a little bit unsettled around the world, we did make sure that we put in provisions, some upgrades ready in case we were going to go in lockdown, and effectively we did. We then put on all of our major build projects on hold, because we didn't want staff to be at risk at that point, and monitored the situation. And there's an awful lot you can do remotely. I mean, obviously putting in physical equipment and fiber and racks is one thing, but there's an awful lot we can do remotely. And we worked with companies like yourselves and other data centers around the UK and around the world, and just using their remote hands and the partnership and access to facilities throughout the lockdown. It was tricky, but it was something that we managed to work through in partnership and limit our exposure of sending staff to site for just critical upgrades.
Understood. Great stuff. Now, I think, again, it sounds like timing was helping in terms of you guys having that at the end of 2019, just before everything started kicking off. So that did help, but obviously it goes to show the benefit of having those upgrade cycles already in your business plan as well. Likewise. So a little bit tied to that, sort of the infrastructure, sort of tied to COVID, but maybe moving a little bit away from it. From a Links perspective, as you build out with so many different data centers around the world, clearly, and so many different geographies, how do you see that infrastructure adapting to the solutions you have? I'm thinking more around sort of the software-defined infrastructure, the more adaptable sort of remote access. Obviously, you're at the cutting edge of that. How do you see that world changing? Because it is moving quickly, clearly, in terms of being more and more automated, more and more software-defined. Do you see the sort of the data center infrastructure keeping up, or do you think there's more radical changes may be needed in terms of infrastructure support for your network provisioning?
Well, I mean, I'd say that there's quite a lot to cover there. But look, let's say where we are, and obviously COVID aside, I mean, we see constant growth on the network. I mean, the COVID situation really drove a spike of activity, but we see constant growth, and as you can appreciate, data center space, power, cooling are all critical factors when you talk about the total cost of ownership around deploying network. And as we continue to see demand for increased port sizes, capacity, connected networks across our peering platform, we're always challenged to say, well, how do we continue to grow our state? How do we continue to provide carrier grade reliability and still increase capacity at cost and at scale? And so we're always open to innovation. We worked through on our London 2 network, we worked through a disaggregated project which was around investing in white box switches from a partner called EdgeCore, and putting in there a portable operating system and using merchant silicon devices, and that was really our first sort of venture into disruptive technology, rather than buying a standard router switch, MPLS switch from a main manufacturer, and from that we saw huge benefits. So we drove, we estimated around a 70% saving in capex for the whole of the deployment of the projects. We run around 60% saving in OPEX, in the operational running costs of the network, and that also reduced our power budget across the whole estate by around 50%. And so this was done a couple of years ago, and we really benefited from that as we've gone forward. But what that's also given us is the ability to copy that learning and copy that model and deploy that elsewhere around the world, and also challenge the technology that we run on our main peering platform across London, to see how we adapt that going forward. And on the automation side, absolutely. I mean, the COVID situation has meant that more businesses, large enterprises, have been reviewing how they route their traffic between their customers, between their corporate facilities, between their employees, and then they look to internet exchanges actually to understand a little bit more about the peering and the internet ecosystem. And so what comes with that is that they want to consume services from links, but they want to consume them in slightly different ways, and so we've been going through a whole digitization journey, and part of that has been exposing the ability to peer on the platform through APIs. So we've published an open API with other internet exchanges. So DKIX, AMSIX, and Links have worked together on a peering standard, a model that we hope will get adopted by the wider community, which enables partners and members and customers to consume APIs for peering service. We're also updating our portal to give richer digital exposure, so you can effectively do self-service, and there's a complete deployment of if you go onto the portal and you select a peering service, it will then push into the live network and do auto configuration all the way through. So that when you come to running internet exchanges around the world, that's where you can do so much more remotely, and hopefully eventually zero touch once you've put the infrastructure in place.
And you mentioned the global footprint there. I'm sure a lot of the listeners are aware, but it might be helpful just to give a bit of a feel as of today what the Links global coverage is like, and maybe where you're looking at for new growth in the coming year or next year even.
Yeah, I think we're very cautious in where we go. We're very deliberate in looking at the market to see, well, where is there a need, an underserved need that we could actually add value to, because our whole membership model is to look where we can improve the way that the internet works. We have for many years have been, obviously London being our birthplace, have been running two networks here in London. We have a very very good network up in Manchester, which is north of England, and that's based around the Manchester region, and we've seen growth over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's performing fantastically. We've got some investments in Scotland around Edinburgh and Glasgow, and also in Wales around Cardiff and Newport. So we effectively run internet exchanges up and down and around the UK for those that are not immediately familiar with the geography. And they're all separate, they're all regional, they're all specific to that local community need. We also have points of presence in North America, and also in the Middle East, in Saudi, through a partnership with STC, where we've deployed a number of internet exchanges locally in Saudi. There's a whole number of discussions around where, as I say, where things could benefit. I mean, you could look around the globe and say that there's communities and countries that really would benefit from internet exchanges, and we'd look to partner with data centers, fiber providers, and local businesses to see where we could add value. Nothing concrete at the moment that we can say, but obviously we're constantly on the lookout where we can invest to improve the way the internet works.
Got it. That makes sense. And it's similar to ourselves, and I'm sure a lot of sort of large tech providers following the customer demand clearly is going to be key for yourselves, as it is for us. As I thought of a little bit of a tie-in again, going back to COVID, because I'm sure the listeners will be interested given the sector you're in. Obviously, we saw demand spike, and generally, I mean, despite some pockets, people found internet accessibility pretty good, or surviving. Is that because the internet infrastructure itself has that robustness built in, or is it because the providers, again, which you obviously see and work with, were putting in more availability during that spike period, or can the system, was the system ever pushed, I guess, to its limit, do you think, during the real spikes of COVID lockdowns?
I'm absolutely sure it was pushed to the limits. I think you hear different stories up and down the country about localized issues, success stories, and also problems. And I think whenever you've got an access network out there that has to invest in managing that last mile connectivity, there's always going to be a challenge around the capital deployed and when to upgrade and how to make the judgment on that investment. I mean, overall, I guess the core infrastructure, the part that we're involved in with the access networks, our customers and the content providers, I think that survived incredibly well. I mean, I think there's a very robust ecosystem up and down the UK around the internet, and obviously internationally. But from a UK perspective, I think we flexed extremely well, and managed to deliver the upgrades or the capacity that was needed at the time of the spike. I think probably because of that success, businesses will look at that. There's always going to be some communities or so local villages or towns or even flats where access is a little bit restricted, and there'll be new technologies like 5G that will enable other ways of serving their needs. But from a core point of view, I think businesses have looked at it and said, well, look, this ecosystem has survived under pressure, and actually maybe our business models can change. I think there's probably follow-on discussions around security and what does it mean from a secure operating system, because there's some elements that you would do in a temporary situation that you probably won't do longer term if you change your business model. But I think security on the internet and connectivity globally is a constant evolving concern, and so I don't think it'll stop businesses in that respect. So I think really the systems, the data centers, the connectivity, the resilience has really performed exceptionally well, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, and we get asked that on various forums around from a data center infrastructure perspective what we're seeing, and I think that scalability is there. and customers are building in a lot more resiliency, I think, than people think they may already have, because obviously COVID is a situation that's very hard to foresee based on the increased usage metrics, but it's fortunately that the internet infrastructure is so robust. So a little bit, I mean, we've covered the COVID piece. I want to throw a few other key themes that sort of constantly reappear in sort of tech talks a little bit, and to get the Links perspective on it. From an we talked about automation, but from an AI perspective, and that sort of coding of algorithmic, predictive type measuring of the network and systems, is this an area that Links is looking at for the more future view? I know you're doing a lot around automation, but are you already building in different forms of AI into that, or do you think that's somewhere that as an organization and a sector, the internet exchanges are going to move fast towards, and I guess in which parts of your business do you think you'll see that?
Yeah, it's AI and machine learning is obviously a wide and hot topic within the tech community and within service provider, network provider businesses as well. And yes, it is coming. What benefits can internet exchange glean from that? I think there are many. We've started research ourselves already on that. I think where we'll look at it, certainly from our point of view, where we're looking at it is to really help the sort of monitoring, observation, and insight into network performance and stability, where we could use a kind of, I guess, an intelligent ops or DevOps type bots that will sit alongside human resources and have plugs into various monitoring systems around our estate, and actually can do rapid, intelligent, machine learned diagnosis and feed that to human decision makers. And in the short term, obviously, in the longer term, you could see that being plugged into our configuration automation platform. So you have an intelligent bot that discovers a fault or a potential fault that can then be pushed into our deployment chain, and then actually configuration pushed to the network that bypasses those issues. So we are looking at it very much from an operational point of view, but it's part of our drive to be efficient and effective. We do want to continue to operate internet exchanges around the world, and as we spoke about earlier, about growth and capacity and constantly having to build more network. We want to do that with the same resources that we have, or as much as we can, the same resources we have today. And so we see leveraging machine learned intelligence to help our operational planning, capacity, and all of that is going to be part of our future of how we grow, but continue to operate a world-class service.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's as you rightly said, it's probably the hottest topic, obviously after COVID at the current time. But AI and machine learning is probably literally everywhere now and impacting all parts of it. So a little bit tied to that, I guess, we're from our world in terms of the customer base, we're hearing about another two things, which actually you alluded to one of them earlier as well, is the Internet of Things and 5G, obviously, as the two key developments that's sort of on the horizon and already developing. From an Asia perspective, there's a few cities here which are really motoring forward with 5G especially, and obviously the Internet of Things is going to sort of tie to that, and it's going to drive huge data consumption. I guess from a Links and your own role perspective, you must see those as opportunities, but is it also something that you're having to look at from an infrastructure and business growth perspective, how that impacts? It'd be interesting just to find out how either of those, if you think one's more relevant or both, will have an impact on your industry.
Well, I think so. It's probably still fairly early. I mean, obviously 5G is out there, but there's going to be, if you like, versions of 5G maturity over the next 4 to 6 years as we see advances in the way that it's deployed and also the capabilities from network slicing through to through to the various traffic controls and capacity management. I think we are keenly watching, and we're observing, and we're involved in a number of research projects where we would be in discussions around where that technology is going. I think there potentially could be opportunities around, more so around the UK rather than internationally, but there could be opportunities around 5G and how links, being a neutral and expert within that kind of local network build, where we could potentially help and be part of that, technology trend. And the Internet of Things is a little bit harder to gauge. I mean, we know, there are going to be latency specific applications. There's going to be localized smart cities. There's going to be various things around autonomous vehicles and every device needing to communicate with another. Exactly how that would play into an internet exchange or even an interconnection market need, and some of them things like edge computing and that. I think it's probably a little bit too early to say for whether that's going to bring opportunity for us. But I mean, two obviously incredibly interesting subjects and technologies, and I think probably the one that's more relevant to us is 5G. And as I said before, whether it's getting to reach hard, getting to people hard to reach in the UK geography, getting them online and connected in at decent rates into the UK internet infrastructure would be a huge benefit anyway. And I think links can definitely be part of that. But I think there's much more we can do around future development of 5G.
And I think that's again, making comparisons to Asia, it's that hard to reach and remote areas which is offering a lot of promise early on for the 5G technology, if it can be rolled out in the right way. And then clearly I'd agree on the Internet of Things as well, sort of ramping up over time. We're seeing a bit more of it in Singapore and some of these more geographically more contained areas, and it will roll out for some of the larger geographies over time. Really great discussion, Richard. I think we're approaching the 30 mark, so we're almost there. I just wanted to end sort of asking you any thoughts you wanted to share, maybe that we haven't covered around this sort of COVID period and links, and then really good to hear on sort of the open peering sharing you're doing with the other internet exchanges, obviously, which sounds really exciting. So any information on that, I guess, where we can direct listeners would be useful. And then anything else you'd like to add that maybe we haven't missed?
Yeah, we've covered an awful lot there, Omar. But I think just going back onto the IX API. So there's a website that we host information on which is IX API, and we are trying to, as I say, try and evolve that. And that's not just about internet exchanges and purely just peering. We want to work with partners like data centers, like network service providers, international service providers, and create, if you like, an interconnection ecosystem. We see peering platforms as a way of serving not just what we do today of peering networks, but also offering additional services over those platforms that can add value as well. And part of getting people interested in that is going to be through the IX API initiative. I think if we look at what Links does today and where we see the overall direction. I mean, obviously we're invested, and we think the metro internet exchange points are the way to go, and working with data center partners to make that seamless across the metro is key for us. And a lot of that is around strong partnership and working with companies like yourselves. I would, for anyone that's listened in and is interested in finding out a little bit more about how they can work with internet exchanges through the API, or work or become partners, find me, come and speak to us, and I'll find the IX API site. There's a lot of good work going on there between between the three. In fact, I believe we've now got 4 or 5 internet exchanges that are actively engaged in it. So NetNod have joined in, and the Moscow Internet Exchange have also joined in. I believe others will as well. But the initial 3 that we started, it was Links, Am6, and DKIX that kicked it off. But I think that as we go forward, that kind of whole ecosystem, all of the internet exchanges businesses will, and probably data center businesses, will have to become much more digitized and consumer friendly, and open up our services to be consumed through partnerships, APIs, and a wider ecosystem. So a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of good things for our community and the interconnection community going on. Not just because of COVID, but certainly I think COVID has highlighted areas that we need to invest in. But a lot of good stuff going on already.
Great summary. No, and for listeners who have obviously come either through the DigitalCentre portal or sort of a link on social media, if you go to digitalcentre.technology and go to the links steering committee page or the podcast of this page, you'll be able to get to a lot of the links and reports that Richard mentioned there directly. And from our perspective as well, we've got some interesting content coming up, which sort of ties to a lot of the points Richard mentioned around. From our perspective, we reference data gravity and the importance of access to data, which is clearly what the internet exchange providers enable, such as links. So I think with that, we've covered a lot of ground, Richard. So I think that's plenty for people to think about, and we'll give more links for them to click around. Just leaves for me to say thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, that's great. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for the time, Omar.
Thanks, Richard. Stay safe, stay well, and likewise to all the listeners, please do keep an eye out. Hopefully you're all subscribed. If you're not, please do go to the DigitalCentre portal and subscribe for future podcasts, and we will be with you again very soon. Please do stay safe, stay well, and thanks for joining us.